Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to Dr. Curtis O's YouTube channel. And in this segment, we're going to talk about medical school. But because it's such a big and important session, we're actually going to do a part 1 in this video. And then in the second video, we're going to do a part 2. Now, a couple things before we get started. I appreciate all new subscribers that I've been getting. But if y'all can continue to like, subscribe, share my video, leave a comment or question, I promise I'll go back to y'all. The second thing I wanted to address is that because these segments are going to be about medical school and residency, what I would like for y'all is if y'all have any questions about medical school or about residency, please leave those questions below. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to compile those and do a Q&A section in that 4th video. So that way I can answer a lot of questions that people have asked me, whether it's on YouTube or on Instagram. Now let's get started. For those that already know, I went to Ross University School of Medicine. But before we get into my journey in medical school, what I wanted to do was share a few facts about Ross. Fact number 1. Ross was originally located in Dominica, not DR as in Dominican Republic, but Dominica itself, which was in the Caribbean. And where the school was located was actually in Rousseau. Now, because of Hurricane Maria that unfortunately hit Dominica in 2017, Ross is now located in Barbados. Fact number 2 that a lot of people don't know about Ross University School of Medicine in the Caribbean. You do your first 4 semesters on the island, and each semester is composed of 4 months. So in total, you do 16 months. Once you complete those 16 months, which is considered basic studies, then you can relocate back to the United States and take your clinical rotations after you've taken step 1. Fact number 3 with regards to Ross that a lot of people don't know about. For first-time board exam takers since 2017, there is a 93% passing rate for first-time takers. Fact number 4, with regards to matching, which is going from medical school and matching to your respective residency program, Ross has an 86% matching rate for first-time appliers. Those were 4 interesting facts that I thought I'd share with y'all if y'all didn't know about Ross School of Medicine. Now let's get into my 4-year journey at Ross School of Medicine. Now what a lot of people don't know about me is before I started medical school, I actually had to do this program called MERP, which stands for Medical Education Readiness Program. Now the reason why I had to do that program before I started medical school is because even though I got accepted to medical school, I didn't have the GPA and the MCAT scores to get me directly admitted. So this program was designed for students who they felt that they could do well, but they weren't really sure. So it was kind of a weed out process. Now this program was about 100 to 150 students, and it was based in Miami. And this program was about over a 4-month span. And in this program, we had to go through classes that we would be taking while we was in medical school. So this program was essentially either you're in or you're out. Either you passed or you failed. So if you passed, they granted you admission into medical school, and if you failed, then unfortunately they did not give you admission. So because my GPA was not good enough and because my MCAT score was not good enough, I had to do this MERP program to see if I was ready to get into medical school. So obviously this was nerve-wracking, but I was ready at the same time. But for me, who was easily distracted, putting a program like that in Miami, a place that people love to visit or want to visit, that was a challenge in itself. Before we started, a lot of us joined Facebook groups, whether it was Ross School of Medicine group or it was a MERP program group. And within that group, there was rumors about how many people actually passed the program. And we saw anywhere between 40 to 60%. Now knowing that and knowing that I only had one chance at passing this program in order to get into medical school, I knew it was going to be challenging being Miami, a city that loves to party. And you know me, I love to party. But I knew I only had one chance, only had one try in order to get into medical school, and I was not going to mess it up for nothing or nobody. Now, if I remember correctly, the program that I took back in 2008 composed of 4 exams, with the last one being the final exam. So the first 2 exams I actually did pretty well in, but the third one, I did not do well at all. So that final exam was important for me because I just wanted to make sure I did not fall below the passing mark. Now, obviously that program consisted of a lot of studying because we had to attend a series of classes before each exam. And so for me, I actually had 2 roommates. And for us 3, we had vowed that we was going to do everything humanly possible to pass this exam so that we could start medical school. Obviously for me, I'm no fool. You know I had to party, but the only time that I partied was after each exam. Other than that, I was either in my apartment studying or I was attending these classes. For me, I worked my butt off over that 4-month span to make sure I did everything humanly possible to get into medical school, and I did. So I was extremely happy that I did, and I was extremely happy that I was able to prove myself that I was ready for medical school. So the program started around December range and it finished in March. And so we had 1 month off in April before we started medical school in May. So I think the rumors and the stats that we were seeing prior to us starting the program was actually right, because it felt like only 50% of the people that did the program actually made it to medical school. The other 50% unfortunately had to go home. As I said before, Ross is in Dominica. And whenever I say Dominica, people think that I mean DR. This is not DR. This is Dominica, a separate location, a separate island. Now for me, because I'm Nigerian and I've been to Nigeria plenty of times in my life, the transition from United States to a third world country was not that bad. But for a lot of other people that have never lived in a third world country or even visited, this was a complete and utter culture shock. Now, if you could have seen some of the faces that I saw coming off that plane when we landed in Dominica, those face expressions, priceless. Just straight priceless. Now, because we were going to medical school in a different country, a lot of us had to pack our stuff in barrels. Supplies, clothes, food, anything you could possibly think of in barrels. And those barrels were shipped from the States to the island. A lot of us met up in Puerto Rico because from the States you have to land in Puerto Rico, and then from Puerto Rico, that's when you went to Dominica. A lot of happy faces, a lot of talking, a lot of laughter, right? But once we got on that plane from Puerto Rico to Dominica, when we passed over that ocean and as we were landing onto the island, we went from an ocean to trees. And again, if you saw those faces that I saw of students, you could tell in their head they was thinking, what did I get myself into? Because as soon as we landed and they opened up those doors, there was nothing but trees, and it felt like there was a bunch of trees for miles. For me, it didn't bother me at all, but to see these students' faces was pure enjoyment when we got off the plane. Pure enjoyment. So the airport we went to was really small. It had probably only 1 or 2 gates. So we went from the airport and drove approximately about an hour, hour and a half to get to our location. So that even that drive there, you could see people's faces were just in shock because they didn't know that Dominica was going to be like this. Beautiful, beautiful island. Now on the island, the Ross campus was located in the very beautiful area of Rousseau, which is the city. Now surrounding the campus was multiple apartments and multiple housing for students to live very close to the campus. There was a few people that lived further out, but I would say probably about 90 to 95% of the students actually lived within I would consider the Ross bubble. Our house was 2 stories, but it was huge. So me and my friends shared 1 floor, and then there was a group of boys that shared another floor. And our house was literally a few steps away from campus, so it was the perfect location for us. Now on that island, you had to adjust quick, fast, and in a hurry because again, this is third world country. So you didn't have stores here, stores there, your mall there, restaurants in the back. You didn't have none of that. There was literally only a few stores that surrounded campus. And on campus, there was a strip of restaurants that was owned by locals. And outside of campus was 1 supermarket, there was 1 barbershop, and then there was actually a well-known restaurant on our campus that everybody knew about. Subway. Subway, Subway, Subway. Now, because there was only a few stores that you could eat at, I ate Subway literally every single day for 16 months. For 16 months. That's crazy. I would try to spice it up and do this or do that to my sandwich. It got boring. Because I ate Subway for literally 16 months, when I got off that island, I didn't want to see no Subway. I didn't want to smell no Subway. I didn't want to hear anything about Subway. Hell, if a word had the word sub in it or the word had way in it, I wasn't trying to hear it. Because anytime I saw that word or a variation of that, I felt like I was giving me PTSD. Now back to my 16 months while I was on the island. Now my first semester on the island felt eerie similar to my semester in the MERP program. And the reason why I say this is because that first semester felt like a weed out process. That first semester where we had 500 students felt like it got cut down to half. It was more than half, but that's how it felt because we lost so many students. A lot of people that I knew was off the island after 1 semester. Hell, there was a few people that I knew that left after the first exam because either the exam was too hard, it was way too much studying, or they just felt homesick and wanted to leave the island. Because of where the campus was at on the island, which was next to the beach, it made it very, very difficult for a lot of students to just focus on studying. I mean, I knew a lot of people that were partying every single day. And guess what? I wasn't one of them. Now, a lot of those same people that were partying like that did not make it to the second semester. They either repeated their first semester or they just decided, hey, this isn't for me, and they just left the island. For me, even though it was a beautiful island, I felt like it was a blessing in disguise because now I was on an island where I could just focus on studying and not have to worry about all this outside noise. No partying, none of that. I could just focus on my studies. So for me, I vowed that I was really going to party. The only time that I partied was literally the night after an exam. Outside of that, I was studying. I didn't care about going anywhere because I wanted to make sure that I got off that island in 16 months. Not 20 months, not beforehand because I failed out, none of that. My main purpose of being there was to be focused and get off that island as soon as possible. So that very first semester was tough, just like the first semester in college or anywhere else. Because in that very first year, you don't know exactly how you should be studying. Now for me, it felt like gut check time. Because at that point, I felt like now I can find out who I really was. Yes, I took the MERP program. Yes, I passed it, but now I was in medical school. So I really wanted to see if I could withstand and succeed during my 4 years. Now, that very first semester, I felt that I had built up a lot of confidence coming from that MERP program. I felt like that program had jump-started my very first semester there. So even though I had that confidence, I had to make sure that I stayed humble, because medical school is a different animal. Medical school is a different beast. And so you're never entirely sure what you're getting yourself into. And for me, I wasn't sure if the study habits that I had in the program was going to translate to medical school. So the very first semester, I was studying by myself. Hardcore studying every single day leading into the exam. That very first exam, I studied my ass off. And what did I get? I barely passed across the board. I was pissed. I was disappointed. I was nervous. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to handle this moving forward. So what I did was that I changed my study routine up. I started to go to tutoring classes that were held by upper levels. And what I found out was that even though I was studying hardcore, all I was doing was memorizing. I was not trying to put it together to where it made sense, which made it easier to study. And that's what these tutoring sessions did. It helped me rewire my brain so that I wasn't just memorizing. It helped me to where everything made sense. So when I was studying, it was much easier for me to apply that to the exam. Once I started doing that, my exam score started to slowly increase with each passing exam. So even though I had that one-on-one tutor in college for the MCAT, which actually helped me, when I got to medical school, I was stubborn. I felt like I could do this myself until I took that first exam, and that was not the case. At that point, it was a reality check that I needed a tutoring group in order for me to continue to excel. So as I stated, with each passing exam, my exam scores continued to get better and better and better, because now I knew what I was doing. Now I knew how to tackle these exams. Every exam that I took felt like a football game, because before every exam, I had the exact same ritual. From that second exam that I took in medical school to the very last one that I took in medical school. And what I would do was 30 minutes before an exam, I would literally sit right outside the classroom and listen to 2 songs and 2 songs only. Fireworks and Lust for Life. Both of those by Drake. Nothing else. And if someone tried to talk to me before an exam, I would either tell them to keep it moving or I would walk off. When I say I was in a zone, I was in a zone. All I cared about was destroying that test, just like on the football field when you want to destroy your opponent. So obviously medical school in general is hard, but for me, I felt like my confidence just kept building with each and every test. So obviously you got to enjoy yourself wherever you are at. And so for me, even though I was only studying after my exam, I was still working out pretty much daily, and I was playing intramural football, because at the end of the day, you still got to practice self-care. You still got to take care of yourself so you don't lose your sanity. And guess what? Your boy wasn't fighting. For the first time ever, your boy was not fighting on the football field. So as I stated before, with each exam, I continued to get better and better and better. So by the 3rd and 4th semester, even though I was still putting in 20 hours a day, sometimes even 24, day in and day out, every single night, I knew what I needed to do to get to where I needed to be. Hell, because I was doing so well, I even tutored 1 or 2 people. And for me, that felt like such a great feeling, because it felt like I finally got it. I felt like I finally understood what to do. By the end of that 4th semester, which was the last semester on the island, because I was doing so well, when I took that last exam, all I needed to make sure that I did was not get a 0. And that's how well I was doing. I was so proud of myself. I was so proud of my accomplishments. I was so proud that I wasn't just barely making it through medical school. I was actually excelling really well, to the point where on that last exam, as long as I had to get a 0, I was going to get off the island. So after 4 semesters or 16 months, we made it off the island. And what made it that much sweeter is that my roommate, who was African American, that I had in the MERP program, who was also my roommate on the island, also made it off. So after passing 4th semester on the island, we made it to 5th semester. And you had the choice of staying on the island, or you could go to Miami. And you know me. Your boy was back in Miami. Your boy was back in the States. So 5th semester was pre-clinical rotations, and the idea of that semester was to get you ready for your clinical rotations after you had sat for step 1. So because 5th semester was going to be a lot lighter than the first 4 semesters, you already knew what your boy wanted to do. Your boy wants to party with the best of them in Miami. So I know I love the relationships that I built with the locals on the island, and I knew I was going to miss them. Your boy was ready to leave. Your boy was ready to get off that island and get back to the States. There was going to be no more electricity going out, which felt like every day, even though there was not. There was going to be no more subway. And there's going to be no more 10-foot centipedes. And no, I did not say that incorrectly. Them things was 10 feet. I don't care what nobody tells me. Them centipedes that were in Dominica were 10 feet long, and they were aggressive. I mean, they had to been on the 10 deadliest insects of all time. I mean, them things that would attack you like a pit bull that had rabies. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. There was a time on the island where my roommate, who was a really good friend of mine, tore his Achilles. I think it was probably second or third semester. There was one night when I was going to his room in the house, and when I opened the door while he was sitting at the desk studying, I saw a centipede on the ground. I said, Courtney, there is a centipede on the ground. When I say one crush went this way and the lady with the cast went the other way, boy, that boy fell out that chair so quick. But when I say them centipedes are no joke, them centipedes are no joke. And if you went to Ross, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Them centipedes was 10 feet, and can't nobody tell me differently. Them things are aggressive, and I hope I never see one again. And luckily for me, I never got bit by one. But some of my classmates did, and what they told me was that that bite felt like a stingray had stung them in the ocean. It was that bad. So yeah, no more 10-foot centipedes, no more of that dry, ridiculous heat that was mixed with rainy season. There's gonna be no more of that. Your boy was back in the States. Your boy was in Miami. Your boy was coming home. Now after 4th semester, we had approximately about a 3-week break. So I went back to Houston, but I traveled to Miami and I stayed in a hotel so that I can look for an apartment while I was there. And I will never forget this day. I was working out in the weight room within the hotel, and I was doing bicep curls in front of a very large mirror. And when I was doing bicep curls, I noticed that I had ptosis of one eye, which is drooping of the eyelid. This was the very first time I had ever seen this, so I didn't think nothing of it. I didn't think anything was going on, so I kind of just ignored it. And with each passing day, the ptosis was getting worse and worse. And along with the ptosis, I was having weakness. Weakness of my neck muscles, weakness of my facial muscles, and weakness of my eye muscles. And what I mean by weakness of my eye muscles is that I was seeing double, 24/7. Whether I was looking this way, it didn't matter. I was seeing double. And the only way that I would not see double is I would have to wear an eye patch. So I was driving dangerously because I always had to wear an eye patch. If I did not have that eye patch, I was seeing double. But even when I had that eye patch, I had this huge blind spot. So what I did was that I saw a neurologist in Miami. And when I saw the neurologist in Miami, he initially thought I had multiple sclerosis, also called MS. He thought I had this, he thought I had that. While he was getting that CT scan, I was still attending classes during 5th semester. So after I had that full extensive workup with the neurologist, I was still attending classes waiting for my results. So there's one day in class when I got this phone call, and I knew that phone call was coming from the clinic. So I stepped out of the classroom to answer this phone call. When I answered the phone, it was not the doctor, it was either a nurse or a clerk who read me the results of the CT scan. The lady on the other end of that phone call told me that I had thymoma. And because I just finished my basic studies, I knew what a thymoma was. And what a thymoma is that it's a tumor, whether it's benign or malignant. But for me, I was already thinking the worst. So what I did was that within a few hours of getting that phone call, I was in the first plane smoking back to Houston from Miami. Now you can imagine, those 3 hours on that plane was the longest 3 hours of my life. I promise for like 1 hour, I cried. I could not stop crying because at that point, I felt like my life was over. I felt like I had malignancy. I thought that I wasn't gonna be able to achieve what I wanted to achieve. And I was by myself on that plane. So those 3 hours are 3 hours that I would never want to relive ever again in my life. So when I got back to Houston, I saw a neurologist here because I wanted a second opinion. So we did repeat testing, we did repeat imaging, and it was confirmed that I had myasthenia gravis, but I did not have a thymoma. I had thymic hyperplasia. And what thymic hyperplasia is that it's just an enlargement of a gland. So for me, it was enlargement of the thymus gland. And at that time, I had tried high-dose steroids with all the side effects that came with it. I had tried pyridostigmine, also called Mesinon, and I dealt with all the side effects with regards to that. I had tried everything, and there was nothing working at that time. So what we ended up deciding to do was to do a non-invasive thymectomy, which is removal of the thymus gland. And the surgery was successful, thank God. I spent a couple of days in the ICU and a couple more days after that on the regular floors before I was discharged from the hospital. And during this time, I was talking with the administration at the medical school, explaining everything that was going on. And they had advised me to sit out a semester. I was not having that. I was not about to sit out for any reason. So I wanted to give myself every chance possible to see if I was going to be able to pass that semester without having to repeat it. If I had to repeat it, so be it, but I was not going to wait for myself. So I told administration, no, I want to continue, which I did. So I was able to get back to 5th semester, for which I passed, but that came with its own challenges. Because even though I had the surgery, and even though the surgery was successful, I was still dealing with the symptoms for many, many months before it significantly improved. The ptosis, which is drooping of the eyelid, the weakness involved in my neck, the facial muscles. Even when I was walking, at times I would become really short of breath. And a lot of those symptoms resolved over time, but unfortunately, I was still dealing with a lot of the symptoms when I took Step one. And if you know anything about medical school, you know that that is the most important test of your medical school career and probably your life. So that's the end of part one. In the next video, we're going to talk about the second part of medical school. And then the next video after that, we're going to talk about residency interviews. So guys, if you like the content I'm providing, please hit that like button, subscribe down below. And please, please, please share it as much as possible to people that you feel that will enjoy my content. And also remember, please leave questions about medical school or residency interviews in this video or in the next two videos, because after that, we're going to do a Q&A, a question and answers. I will compile all of the questions that I get over the next three videos, and we're going to do a video so that I can answer all the questions that y'all may have. Thank you and God bless.